Thank you for watching this year's Halloween special. For this Halloween, I have a spooky story about the sea that may just scare you so badly you'll never want to go back in the ocean again. I hope you enjoy this year's Halloween special. Hello, I'm the Shadow Critic. Thank you for joining me this Halloween. Now you may be wondering, where's my trademark pickaxe? Well, don't worry, I would never be seen on camera without it. It's right here, in my underwear. The sea is a pride for humanity. Its fish have fed thousands of people throughout human history. It's also allowed for the creation of complex trade routes, and it may just be where God first created life on Earth. However, while the sea has helped man throughout the ages, it also has a darker side. Every culture on Earth has legends of eldritch entities living under the waves, forgotten gods, oceanic monsters, colossal titans submerged under the waters. There's something in the ocean, something big, something dangerous, something killing sharks. Researchers wanted to study the great white shark. They were curious about its life cycle and migration habits. The great white shark is an astonishing creature, as dangerous as it is beautiful. The researchers captured a great white shark and tagged it with an electronic tracker. This particular shark was around 9 feet in size. Now I myself am around 6'5", so I'm pretty tall for a man, but this shark would make me look tiny. And as you may have guessed, something killed this shark. And when you hear the details of the story, you are going to want to stay on land from now on. But first, let me give you some details about great white sharks, so you can know what kind of creature we're dealing with here. A great white shark is an apex predator. This means that it has no known natural predators. In other words, it's a hunter, not the hunted. A 9-foot great white shark would weigh around 600 to 800 pounds. For comparison, there are some small 2-seater aircrafts that weigh around this much. They are extremely adapted for hunting and combat. For instance, they have specially adapted sensory organs that help them fight and hunt. For example, their electroreception system. This is a specially designed sensory organ that allows great white sharks to pick up on the weak electrical signals generated by their prey's muscles. That's right, whenever prey moves its muscles, the great white shark can literally pick up on the electrical signals. They can also smell blood in water miles away. An adult great white shark can have up to 300 unbelievably sharp teeth in its mouth at any moment in time. A great white shark can bite through human bone. They can literally bite a human in half if they wanted to. The bite of a human has around 150 to 200 pounds per square inch. The bite of a great white shark has around 1,800 to 4,000 pounds per square inch. For comparison, the bite of a lion has around 600 to 1,000 pounds of force per square inch. Crocodiles have a bite strength of around 2,000 to 3,700 pounds of force per square inch. Alligators have a bite force of around 2,125 to around 2,980 pounds of force per square inch. So the great white shark has a bite more powerful than all of those animals, even more powerful than alligators and crocodiles. Think about that. Sharks have an amazingly powerful bite. You should take a bite out of that subscribe button. It doesn't cost you anything and it will help me make higher quality content for you. So you'll be getting better quality content without having to pay for anything. And you should take a nibble of that like button. Alligators and crocodiles can just rip you in half with the pure power and strength of their jaw and bite. But great white sharks have an even more powerful bite. They have amazingly powerful muscles. Their body shape is perfectly designed to allow them to move at extremely fast speeds underwater. They have speeds of 25 miles an hour. However, they also use short acceleration bursts when attacking prey. They can accelerate to attack prey at speeds of 35 miles an hour. For comparison, humans swim at speeds of 2 to 3 miles per hour. So this shark that the researchers captured was a colossal, powerful creature. It was extremely dangerous and extremely strong. But here's the scary part. As I said, the researchers tagged the shark to monitor its migration habits. However, one day the tag washed up on the shore. They were confused about how the tag could have separated from the shark, so they studied it to see what happened. And what the researchers found was extremely disturbing. The researchers found that the shark had been swimming along when suddenly, out of nowhere, it was pulled down 1,600 feet below sea level. The shark was pulled down at a speed far beyond anything a great white shark could normally achieve. The shark was pulled down into the water at an unbelievable speed, far beyond anything a great white shark could naturally achieve. Researchers don't know exactly what happened to the shark, but given the fact that the tag was washed up, the shark must have been ripped to shreds. Think about how powerful a great white shark is underwater. Think about how powerful and fast a great white shark is. Now ask yourself, what could have killed it? What could be powerful enough to instantly rip a shark down hundreds of feet into the dark abyss of the ocean and then obliterate its body to such a degree that only fragments were left? Scientists will try and find a reasonable explanation. For instance, they might come up with a hypothesis such as perhaps an underwater whirlpool suddenly formed somehow. Or perhaps there was a landslide that fell into the sea and buried the shark. Or perhaps the shark swam over an oceanic lava vent and the change in pressure and heat caused the shark to get sucked in and destroyed. Modern humans often arrogantly think that we understand everything, that we know everything there is to know about existence. We think that people who lived in ancient societies were just stupid, and we don't listen to what they have to say. However, almost every ancient society said that there were creatures lurking in the sea. The ancient sagas of Norse mythology recorded a sea creature so vast in size that sailors would often mistake it for an island. Sailors would try to anchor themselves to it, thinking that it was an island. The monster would then dive down deep into the sea, creating chaotic storms and pulling unfortunate souls to their watery graves. Japanese mythology says that gigantic shark-like creatures roam the oceans. They have hook-like tails, and they use them to entangle ships and pull them down deep into the water. The Japanese said that these monsters would use their large fins to control the currents, creating powerful whirlpools and underwater currents to pull ships underwater. The Japanese also believed in a creature called a sea monk. This was the spirit creature that created powerful storms and capsized ships. In a similar way, Chinese mythology spoke of sea dragons that could control rain and water and create storms. These sea dragons were said to have had power over the ocean. Chinese mythology also speaks of a creature called a water pig or a water boar. This was said to be a creature that was an amalgamation of fish and boar. It was extremely feared as it was said to cause flooding and disasters. Finally, Chinese mythology speaks of the four dragon kings who ruled over the seas in the four directions, north, south, east and west. These dragon kings were said to be extremely powerful. Hindu mythology has many water demons and strange aquatic creatures. Hindu mythology has various other sea monsters, such as giant fish. The various religions of the world also speak of sea monsters. The Bible, for instance, speaks of a creature called the Rahab. It's mentioned several times in the text, and it's said that God destroyed this creature. God stirs up the sea with his power. By his understanding, he breaks the storm. By his spirit, the heavens become fair. His hand pierces the gliding serpent. In the book of Psalms, the psalmist says, "You crushed Rahab like one of the slain. With your strong arm you scattered your enemies." Isaiah said, "Was it not you who cut Rahab into pieces? Was it not you who pierced the dragon? Was it not you who dried up the sea, the waters of the great deep? Who made the sea a way for the redeemed to pass over?" It seems that in the Bible, the Rahab It's a dragon-like entity that possibly represents the forces of chaos. This may be why it's associated with the water, because in the Bible, the ocean and the sea is very linked to the idea of chaos and turmoil. That's why in Genesis the earth is described as having a watery surface before God brings form to creation and creates land, bringing order out of chaos. This may be an allusion to the destruction of the Rahab, the destruction of the primeval chaos, and the birth of order. Symbolism aside, the Rahab is said to be a dragon-like creature that lives in the water that was destroyed by God. The Bible also has the famous story of Jonah and the whale. You've probably heard of it. However, despite pop culture calling it Jonah and the whale, in reality we never really find out what kind of animal the sea creature was. It's said to be a giant fish in the Bible, but we don't know exactly what it is. It may have been some kind of sea monster that the biblical people were aware of, but we don't know about today. The great fish must have been massive because it was able to swallow Jonah whole, and he was able to live inside of it for 3 days and 3 nights. So this thing would have been absolutely huge. This is a creature that we are probably not familiar with today. The book of Revelation also speaks about monsters emerging from the sea. However, this is mostly believed to be a symbolic book, but still the idea of monsters emerging from the sea is found in the book of Revelation. The monster had 10 horns, 7 heads, and 10 crowns on its horns, and a blasphemous name on each head. So yeah, this thing would be pretty scary in real life, but like I said, this one is probably just symbolic. Then we have probably the most famous sea monster from the Bible, the Leviathan. This is the colossal creature that lives in the sea. It's mentioned in the books of Job, Isaiah, Psalms, and Amos. God shows Job 2 creatures, the Behemoth and the Leviathan. The Behemoth is some kind of land creature that may have been a dinosaur of some sort, and the Leviathan is a sea creature. God shows Job these creatures to show him that he's a ruler of everything, from the tiniest insect to massive creatures like the Behemoth and the Leviathan. The Leviathan is often portrayed as being a giant sea serpent. It is a terrifying creature that is massive in size and ancient in age. Its very existence is a reminder to humanity of just how insignificant we are, of just how easy it would be for us to be swallowed up by huge and powerful forces such as the ocean, of just how insignificant we are on a cosmic scale, and of how lost we would be to these forces without God. In Greek mythology, we also find many legends of sea monsters. For instance, we hear about Keto. Keto was a goddess. She was said to be the daughter of the primordial deities Pontus, the sea, and Gaia, the earth. She is often depicted as being a gigantic sea serpent. She is said to have given birth to many of the sea monsters from Greek mythology. In Greek mythology, there are various sea monsters, many of which are referred to by the name Cetus. These are typically sea serpent-like creatures, and these Cetus appear in many myths. For instance, there's one in the story of Perseus and Andromeda. The princess Andromeda was tied to a rock to be sacrificed to a Cetus because her mother had offended the gods, due to her hubris. A Cetus is also used in divine punishment during the Trojan War. It appears that these sea monsters were quite common, and as we can see, they may have often had a link with divine punishment. Finally, we have probably the most famous sea monster in human history, the Kraken. The Kraken is often portrayed as being a gigantic octopus or squid with massive tentacles. These tentacles are so large it can wrap them around ships and rip them apart with ease. Sometimes the Kraken is portrayed as being a sea serpent-like creature, and because I'm talking about the Kraken, I have no choice but to play this clip.
Release the Kraken.
The Kraken is the famous monster everyone remembers from Clash of the Titans. The gods send the Kraken to consume the princess Andromeda as a sacrifice, as divine punishment for her mother's hubris. Thankfully, the hero Perseus slays the Kraken using Medusa's head, saving the life of Andromeda. The question is, are these stories of ancient sea creatures true? Do they really inhabit the ocean? Now you may be saying, oh Shadow Critic, those stories are just stupid myths and legends made up by ignorant ancient people. People in the past were so stupid, they were such idiots, and we're so much smarter than they were. Well, firstly, if you think you're smarter than ancient people, I would suggest you trying to build one of these, or this, or this, or this, or this, or this, and then you can come and tell me how stupid they were. Secondly, while tales of gigantic sea creatures may seem extremely unlikely, we actually do have some evidence from the modern era to support the idea of their existence. In 1997, a mysterious noise was recorded. This noise was called the bloop. It was a sound of truly colossal volume. It was around 188 decibels. To give you an impression of how loud that is, it would have been slightly louder than a rocket launching or a very large explosion. The sound was so loud that it could be heard over a range of thousands of kilometers underwater. Was this the sound of an iceberg fracturing, or was it the sound of a hungry kraken waking up looking for sharks to eat? You be the judge. And perhaps those scientists who look for ordinary explanations are correct. Perhaps there really is nothing to worry about. Or perhaps they just don't want to admit that our world may be home to forces far darker than we could have ever imagined.